I'd like to talk today about chapter 20 in the book of Genesis. In chapter 20, we see Abraham traveling again. One of the things that we notice about Abraham in the book of Genesis is that frequently he's traveling from place to place. He travels many times with his family, his flocks, and he's trying to find really a better place for his flocks in terms of watering them. So in chapter 20, he travels to Gerar, and when he gets there, he's kind of assessing the situation. And he notices that there is a king, a very powerful king there named Abimelech. And he gets a little concerned. We notice that this was true when he went to Egypt. He was concerned when he got there with the Pharaoh. He thought the Pharaoh might take Sarah. And so he said, Sarah was his sister. Well, when he gets to Gerar, he sees the same situation. So he goes to this old routine of his with the sister, and he says, Sarah is my sister, and if you want, you can take her into your family. And so Abimelech takes Sarah, who apparently is very beautiful, takes Sarah into his home. But we notice that something goes wrong with this plan because God sends a dream to Abimelech. It says, Abimelech, this isn't a good situation because this woman that you took into your house wasn't really the sister of Abraham, but was his wife. So Abimelech, after he gets this dream, he wakes up the next morning. He's all upset after the dream, calls his court together and says, this is a bad situation we have here because I had this dream, and God told me in this dream that Sarah was the wife of Abraham. So Abimelech, all upset, calls in Abraham and says, Abraham, what happened here? I mean, you told me she was your sister, but God in the dream says she's actually your wife. What's the deal here? So Abraham explains, well, she is my wife, but she's also my sister in a way because she's my stepsister. She's my father's daughter, but not my mother's. So, I wasn't really totally deceiving you, because I was afraid. I was afraid what might happen. So Abimelech says, oh, this is not good. You're going to take Sarah back. And not only are you going to take Sarah back, I'm going to give you some of my flocks, my slaves, and 1,000 shekels, silver shekels, because this isn't a good situation that happened here. So Abraham is very happy with this arrangement with Abimelech. He takes the flocks and the servants and the money. And he also notices that, he should pray for Abimelech. Because apparently what happened to Abimelech was that his wife and his maidservants weren't able to conceive. Of course, in those times, not being able to conceive and have children was considered really a curse. So Abraham intercedes and he prays to God. He says, God, Abimelech was fair to me. He was good to me. Please, make sure that you take care of Abimelech and make sure that his wife and his maidservants are able to have children. Now, we look at this story and we unpack a little bit. There's quite a few lessons here. First of all, there's the whole problem of deception. We see this as a theme, really, in the book of Genesis, this deception theme, this lying, this not telling the truth. We saw how Abraham did it first in Egypt. Now he does it again in Gerar. There's going to be other instances later on in the book of Genesis where there is this deception theme. And usually where there's deception, where there's lying, things do not work out too well. Also, when you look at that, you wonder, does Abraham have a lack of trust in God? Because he does this deception with Sarah. I mean, if he really was totally trusting in God, he would say, well, things will work out fine, it'll be okay. But there is still fear on the part of Abraham. And maybe there was some basis for the fear. Sarah apparently was very beautiful, and so there was a legitimate fear here. But that tension between trusting completely in God and being afraid seems to be apparent in Abraham. We also see here the power of dreams. We notice that God comes to Abimelech in a dream and shares with Abimelech what the truth is about Sarah. So again, the importance of dreams in the religious feelings and the religious teaching of the time very important, and of course in our own time. Frequently, dreams, the gateway to our unconscious, will have very important elements in our life and give us directions when we think about those dreams. We also get a little bit more of an insight into Abraham's exact relationship with Sarah, that she is the stepsister, the father's daughter, but not the mother's. So that gives us a little bit more of an understanding of Sarah and Abraham. And we're very impressed also with Abimelech's generosity. He gives Abraham of his flock, of his servants, and 1,000 silver shekels, a considerable amount of money. So obviously Abimelech was a wealthy king, and he wanted to provide for Abraham and make sure that everything was fine with him. Also, what Abimelech brings out here is the importance of a woman's honor. He says to Sarah, we didn't have sexual relations. You were part of my house, but I respected you. And so your honor remains intact as a woman. So again, this whole importance in the religious tradition of the honor of the woman is brought out. And finally, we see here the theme of Abraham's prayer. After Abraham went through this experience with Abimelech, still a lot of generosity on the part of Abraham, a lot of love that he has for others. This is brought out in his concern about Abimelech, that Abimelech's wife and maidservants could not have children. So he prays to Yahweh, he prays to God and says, God, please give them children. It shows again two things, his love for others, but also his deep relationship with God. And so we learn a lot more about Father Abraham. As we know, Father Abraham has many friends. Many friends has Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so were you. So let's all praise the Lord. Keep on praising the Lord.